So Salman, here we are, last day of the Bitcoin 2025 conference, truly a marathon of an event for us. What are kind of your observations?
When you think about it, the whole ecosystem is here. And it's great to see everybody shake hands, especially when the Bitcoin price is all-time high this time. It's fascinating to see all these smiling faces and get to exchange ideas and get to see who's doing what. And Mara being where we are, it's a fascinating time for us in the industry. We have grown over these years, and I'm sure you have a lot of stories to tell for the investors since you've been there since the beginning. It was not an easy ride to where we are today, but it has been a very meaningful ride. And it's fascinating how the organization has grown, the amazing talent that you've been able to attract. Help our audience understand how that journey has been for you, because this is fascinating from two people organization when you joined the organization as the third person as the CEO, and where we are today with 180 people, and the amount of quality of people that you've been able to attract across the board, not only at the employee level, but also at the board level. It's world class. How did you do that?
It comes down to sticking to a vision and finding the best people who align with that mission and who also, more importantly, align with the culture. One of the benefits of having been in the technology industry and run as many companies as I have over the past 40 years is that I've learned a lot of lessons, some painful, some less painful, but a lot of lessons about the type of company and culture and values that I wanted to have in kind of my next venture. With Mara, I was able to really do that from the get-go because we built it from just a few folks. And so being able to shape the whole executive team versus inheriting an executive team, and then being able to really shape the vision, mission, and have people who can execute it. If you go back 4 years ago, a little over 4 years ago when I became CEO, the business has changed dramatically. And every year we do some major shift in the business. We were at first very asset light, then we became asset heavy, became vertically integrated, became technologically integrated. We're the second largest holder of Bitcoin in the corporate world today, while lots of treasury companies are being established all around us. We have the largest Bitcoin production of any publicly traded miner in the world, and we have some of the most advanced technologies. And we're only really getting started. We're now starting to really grow our relationships with energy companies while also being an energy company. We own wind farms. We own energy generation in oil fields. With the advent of AI, as opposed to chasing the AI HPC brass ring that many of our peers have, we're very focused on the long-term business of AI, which is more about inference. It's more about computing at the edge, where we can really leverage our skills in driving lowest potential cost per token in inference AI. So I'm really excited about where we're going. I think it's been great to bring great people onto the team like yourself and all the value you've added in the short time you've been with us, which is now just 2 years. It seems like a longer period of time. We're continuing to professionalize the organization. We're bringing in a lot of people from outside of the Bitcoin mining space. If you think about the makeup of our team, we have a high weighting of folks who are energy experts. We have a high weighting of people who are technology experts, electrical engineering, subsystem infrastructure experts, and a lot of great expertise in M&A and origination. And I think that's really what differentiates us. Many of our peers are focused on being the most operationally excellent at running a Bitcoin mining site. I believe we are not only operationally excellent, but we are, from a corporate perspective, from a fiduciary perspective, the most professional team in the industry because of all the wealth of experience that our team has across many industries, across many marketplaces, that we're able to bring to bear a lot of maturity, a lot of experience, and an ability to execute very quickly.
Yeah. So piggybacking on that, when you think about Mara historically, we transformed our business from asset light to asset heavy, as you mentioned. Now we are 70% owned and operated versus 0% beginning of last year. As a result of that, now we control our own operations. We can manage our uptime better. We are one of the lowest electricity costs per coin, which is a proud moment. As you have stated publicly, lowest cost operator is going to be the survivor in this sector. You're saying that we're not stopping there. We didn't only convert or transform our business from asset light to asset heavy, but also started buying energy generation. Now, people are getting to see the strategy that you have been talking about and showing the vision over the years. Where's Mara going from here?
In the world of Bitcoin, we have this thing called halvings. And in between the halvings, where essentially we get paid half as much to do the same amount of work, the amount of work that needs to get done gets more and more difficult. So, for example, in 2023, though there wasn't a halving event, twice as much compute was applied to the network, which made the difficulty rate double. So it was like a halving. So essentially, we are very unique as an industry. We have to continually chase efficiency and become more and more efficient. The only way you can get out of the constant struggle of making yourself more energy efficient because you're paying a consistent price for energy is to eliminate the energy price from the equation. The vast majority of the input cost to our business is energy. If we can acquire energy or find energy we can use at near zero cost, then the cost basis of what we do drops. And now I'll go a little accounting on you, which is if 80 cents of every dollar is energy, just hypothetically, it's less in our case, but let's just say hypothetically, 80 cents of every dollar is energy. That means that for every dollar of revenue that you're generating, you're paying out 80 cents, right? That's working capital. If you don't have to pay 80 cents of every dollar, but rather you're just sharing the profits with an energy partner, now all of a sudden your working capital needs drop dramatically. When you drop your working capital needs, it means you need less cash in the business to pay for bills, which means if you're hodling all your Bitcoin like we do, and we're not selling it, it's less capital we have to go raise from investors or less debt we have to incur just to keep the lights running. And as we build our technology businesses and our treasury business, and they start throwing off returns, we are a very lean team. As you said, we're a little over 180 people running a multi-billion-dollar business. We don't need a lot of profit margin to cover SG&A outside of the mining business. And as that starts accelerating, now we get a flywheel effect where we're not only the most energy efficient, but more importantly, we're also CapEx efficient because the machines we use, once they're fully depreciated, can be moved to these very low-cost energy sites. And so we extend the life of our capital equipment, which essentially means that the overall burden on every Bitcoin that we mine drops when you look at it at the net income line. As we continue to expand beyond Bitcoin into more of an energy management company, into more of a company that load balances data centers, into a company that provides infrastructure for data centers, the constant chasing of the halving events, or being chased by the halving events, becomes less and less and less of a factor in our business model. We're designing a business not for the next halving or the halving after that. We're designing a business for the very long term. And I think that's why our shareholders invest in Mara. It's not because today or tomorrow our stock price is going to move the fastest. It's over the long term, we will be the company that not only survives but thrives. We will be the company that drives this industry forward. We will continue to be the thought leader. You can look at this conference and things we were saying about what we were going to do a year ago, 6 months ago. Now many of our peers are starting to copy the same thing, that they're going to go to low energy, they're going to go do all these things, because it's obvious. And so I think I'm very excited about how we as an organization are really focused on the long term in the future. And it is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And I'm super excited about the team we've built. I'm super excited about the business we've built. I'm excited about the assets that we've acquired and we continue to acquire. And I'm super bullish on the future and the partnerships that we're developing that'll take us for the next 10 years forward.
It's fascinating to see wind farms and the natural gas flare business that we've built and how that reduces all-in cash operating costs by 85 to 90%. So that's a testament of the vision coming into action. And for our stockholders, that's great news, because if you think about and imagine that time where hash price is not favorable, and Bitcoin price keeps going up, but global hash rate goes up as well. Mara is the only operator that has 85-90% less cost per coin versus its peer group once this becomes at a scale, right? So that's the exciting part. Let's switch gears a little bit. You mentioned something about the HODL. Mara is the second largest holder of Bitcoin in public company markets, as we know. And it has been on a full HODL strategy for the last 1 year or so. This is a capital intensive business. While we are also holding Bitcoin, when you made that decision last year, Bitcoin was around $45,000 per coin. Now we're all-time high at $110,000, $108,000 per coin, somewhere in that range. How does it feel like continuing with that strategy? What are the thought process that goes in your mind? And I know you may ask the question, you're the CFO, you should be giving me the answer. But from your perspective, from a strategy perspective, how do you think about our HODL business?
So I view the HODL in two ways. One is part of my mind thinks about it from an asset management perspective. What is the best use of our cash? We can choose to invest in more Bitcoin mining facilities. That's a CapEx spend. We invest anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million a megawatt. It takes us 12 to 18 months to build a site before we produce the first Bitcoin. If we're in an environment where the price of Bitcoin is moving sideways, so not moving up, not moving down, then it makes sense to invest in Bitcoin mining capacity because we can acquire Bitcoin at a discount to the spot market through Bitcoin mining. But it takes time to recoup your investment in assets and get that flywheel effect going. When we have a belief that the price of Bitcoin is going to move rapidly upwards, like last year, that's when it makes sense to go out in the marketplace and buy Bitcoin. In July of last year, Bitcoin was between $45,000 and $55,000. We felt that the price of Bitcoin was going to move up. We did the first buy of $250 million of Bitcoin. I think it was just before the Bitcoin conference in Nashville. And then President Trump came out with his announcement and Bitcoin started racing. We then did another nearly $2 billion of Bitcoin buys towards the end of the year and have seen a steady increase in the value of that Bitcoin. We are not a MicroStrategy or a strategy company, pure Bitcoin treasury company. We are a hybrid with, as you like to call it, the twin turbo strategy. We have Bitcoin mining where we generate Bitcoin at a discount to spot market, where we accumulate hard assets, energy assets, where we're generating long-term alpha and value that way. At the same time, we're the second largest corporate holder of Bitcoin, and we have the ability to generate yield on that Bitcoin. And we continue to stack Bitcoin every month from our production. It's not like our Bitcoin treasury is totally dependent on us purchasing. No, we're adding anywhere from 500 to 1,000 Bitcoin a month, depending on difficulty and the amount of hash rate that we have, continuing to stack on the pile. And we'll continue to do that over time. Anytime we have excess cash, we can make that decision. Are we going to invest in equipment, or are we going to just put it in Bitcoin? And at the end of the day, our business is a way for us to acquire a lot of Bitcoin. And as long as we have a belief and conviction in the fact that the Bitcoin price will continue to move upwards. And certainly, I don't think you would see the billions of dollars that are being formed to acquire Bitcoin in all these Bitcoin treasury companies happening if a lot of people didn't have the same conviction. Then it only makes sense for us to continue to hodl, because holding Bitcoin with the appreciation that it has had historically is a much better use of capital than selling the Bitcoin or distributing it back. And our average weighted cost of capital through equity issuance or through debt is lower than what it would be if we were selling our Bitcoin. When you look at the appreciation that Bitcoin has generated. I mean, in Q4 of last year, for our Q4 results, we recorded a huge mark-to-market gain on our Bitcoin holdings. Right? Q1 of this year saw a drop in the value of the Bitcoin holdings, which was fully recouped in the first month or two of the second quarter. And so, yes, it creates big swings in our results, but the key thing is the value continues to trend upwards. And this underlying value of today, notionally somewhere around $5 billion of Bitcoin that we hold, underpins the value of the company. My only regret is that the marketplace doesn't value our mining assets. It doesn't value our technology assets today.
Let me ask you a question, which is the elephant in the room. And it's a question that I do understand that from a legal perspective, you have to be careful how you answer that question as a public company. You are a major shareholder in the company, so am I and other management team members. Almost entirely all our net worth is tied to the success of Mara. So we're all in, as they say, as the skin in the game. With all these amazing things that Mara has been doing and envisioning and delivering, our stock price and our market cap has been around the value of the Bitcoin HODL, which is significantly undervalued compared to other miners, compared to other treasury companies. What would you like to tell the stockholders?
Well, I think the stockholders need to understand that there are two things that we do that drive value. One is hold and accumulate a lot of Bitcoin, the second largest corporate holdings of Bitcoin in the world. And I think that's really important because there's a floor to the value of the company, which is reflected in the marketplace today because our market cap trades at essentially 1 times our NAV, which is the value of our Bitcoin holdings. We also have one of the most operational efficient Bitcoin mining operations, which we don't get credit for. And I think people need to look at, if you look at pure play miners that don't have a large HODL, and you look at the multiple of exahash that they get, or you look at a treasury company and you look at the multiple of NAV that they have, we don't get the benefit of that because I think a lot of people don't understand our story well enough. And it's really a question of communicating to people that you get the best of both worlds with us. You get one of the most operationally efficient Bitcoin mining companies in the world, together with one of the largest HODLs in the world, while having one of the most liquid stocks with Bitcoin exposure that you could possibly have. I mean, we trade 50 million shares a day. That is a hugely liquid stock. And it provides investors with the ability to be able to hold large positions and move in and out of positions very efficiently. And I think if you look at how our stock price moves vis-a-vis the price of Bitcoin and vis-a-vis the value of our pure play competitors, you'll see that while we may not move up as quickly as some of our pure play competitors, we move down less than they do, which means to me, people view us as a more mature business, so there's less beta. And I think over time, people will just see the benefit of our HODL. People will also see the benefit of the energy partnerships we're building and enable us to become and remain one of the largest Bitcoin miners in the world with one of the best cost structures and the best longevity.
And as you said previously, we are fixated on executing the strategy, envisioning the future 10, 15 years down the line and beyond, and building something really big and really special. And the market will recognize that as we go along. Beautiful. Fred, would you want to touch a little bit about the political aspect of and the benefit of owning block space? I know you talked about that in the conference yesterday or day before yesterday. For our audience, if you want to touch base a little bit more about why that matters for the United States.
You know, for the US or for any country for that matter, if you're going to hold a lot of Bitcoin, it's very important that you're able to transact that Bitcoin. So for example, why does the US have a gold reserve? The dollar's not backed by gold anymore. Nixon changed that back in the 70s. You have a gold reserve so that if the dollar comes under attack, you can defend it with something other people want. What is the one thing the largest nations in the world are doing today with their foreign asset reserves? They're buying gold. And the US is one of the largest gold reserves. Why does the US have a petroleum reserve? We're arguably one of the largest producers of oil in the world. We don't have to import a lot of oil into this country. It's really so we can protect the price of oil in the marketplace. We even have a Swiss cheese reserve. Most people aren't aware of that the US has a Swiss cheese reserve. And so we have reserves as a way to protect markets from price manipulation. If you look at the US, you have a strategic reserve that President Trump has created through executive order. The Bitcoin that will make up that strategic reserve is still being accounted for across all of the US agencies. The US also has a strategic reserve in the sense that there are hundreds of billions of dollars invested in Bitcoin by US companies and investors in the US. And the US needs to be able to protect that Bitcoin. You do that through two ways. One, by having enough Bitcoin under US government control such that you can protect the market from manipulation. The other way you do it is by ensuring that Bitcoin can be transacted. There are only 21 million Bitcoin that will ever come to existence. There are about 20 million Bitcoin, in theory, in circulation available, though people will argue that 4 to 6 million are locked up forever in a way that can't be accessed. If you, as a nation or a group of allied nations, control more than 50% of the Bitcoin mining in the world, it means you control more than 50% of the transaction processing of Bitcoin, which means you could filter transactions. You could prevent, for example, if you were a group of allied nations against the US and you had over 50% of global hash rate and you could control your miners, you could essentially say, don't process any transactions for wallets related to US companies. And the US companies would be locked out of 5 or 6 out of every 10 blocks that are transacted, which would be a huge negative to the holders of Bitcoin, which would substantially damage potentially the companies that hold that Bitcoin, the investors that hold that Bitcoin. And so the US government has made a determination that the US will be the largest miner of Bitcoin by percentage of global hash rate, such that they can ensure that allied nations that are not aligned with the US can't unnecessarily restrict US companies and investors from transacting in Bitcoin in support of US interests. And that is the strategic importance of block space. The US government gets it. The Defense Department and the other national security agencies get it. And I think it's a big shift in the focus in the current administration versus the prior administration. And you're also seeing it with other sovereigns. The Russians, the Chinese, Saudis, and others all want to accumulate Bitcoin, and to ensure that they can transact the Bitcoin that they're accumulating, they want to have Bitcoin mining in their countries.
When I think about you, 40 years in technology industry, done IPOs, worked in private equity, built businesses from scratch and exited them. Technology is in your DNA. When you think about Mara, how does technology come together with Mara? And what is your vision around technology in particular?
Well, technology solves problems and it enables possibilities. If you don't have technology, you would be stagnant. If we didn't have the internet, we would still be reading newspapers and watching television all day long and listening to radio. Right? If we didn't have technology, we never would have landed on the moon. We wouldn't be flying airplanes. The automobile arguably wouldn't exist, and the wheel wouldn't have been created. So technology is really more an end result of innovation. Innovation is what drives me. I'm the consummate innovator. And one of our core values is constant, never-ending improvement in the company. What does that mean? It means we're constantly innovating. If you innovate, it means you're finding better, cheaper, faster ways of doing things. That makes your company more valuable because you're doing things that other people aren't doing currently. Doesn't mean that they won't follow you, but if you're a leader in an industry, it means you're doing things that other people aren't doing, and you're doing it in a better way. I'm driven by constantly focusing on how do we create more value for our stakeholders. And our stakeholders include our shareholders, it includes our employees, it includes the third-party companies we interact with, it includes society. How can we bring better value and create better value for our stakeholders? And that's what really drives me. It's that focus on building teams that can do amazing things and that can create amazing value. And technology plays a core part in that because it's what makes us more efficient, it's what makes us faster, it's what makes us able to produce more. Just look at our pool. Mara Pool produces, on a statistical basis, more blocks than it should. Why? It's because of the technology that we have. Is it secret sauce? Yes. We also have our own firmware that we run in miners. We also have co-founded Auradine, the only US ASIC manufacturer. Why? We need to have control of our destiny. We can't rely on being controlled by offshore companies. And we need to be the company that truly is driving our future. And everybody else in the industry is reliant on some third party for a core part of what they do. We're not. We're independent.
Thank you, Fred. And I'm looking forward to, you started by saying 2 years. This has been a fascinating time for me individually, coming from traditional industries And thank you for orange pilling me. That has been a great experience, and looking forward to many, many years for Mara to create significant value for our stakeholders.
Well, thank you for being on the team and all the hard work you do, and looking forward to lots of years of continued growth and success for the whole organization.
Thank you.